Did Emu create all other devil fruits in existence? Alright, so the official Japanese introduction box for Emu actually says Noryoku Akuma no Mi, which actually can be translated in two ways in English. Emu's ability is devil fruit, or Emu's power is devil fruits, plural, which might just suggest that all devil fruit powers come from the king of the world. I believe that the devil's powers may have been separated after a big clash with Nika centuries ago, and he's been trying to get them back ever since, and after finding the perfect host in Saint Nerona Emu, or potentially even Nika's own body, the devil himself has been trying to flood the world to return all of his powers back to the Eve Tree. So today in this video, I want to talk about what it could possibly mean that Emu's power is devil fruit, and what it might tell us about the history of the entire One Piece world and the ending of the series overall, which seems to be drawing nearer now. Now, I do want to point out that, Japanese gets very ambiguous, and it seems like Oda's box for Emu doesn't say that he has a specific devil fruit. It doesn't say, for example, Hito Hito no Mi model devil, like human fruit or something. It doesn't say the devil fruit. Emu's power is ... devil fruit. But that also leaves us with a huge gaping question. What exactly does that mean? I like to think that it means exactly what is written there in the Japanese original. His power is devil fruits themselves, period. He has the power of the devil, and part of that is devil fruits, as in the power system itself. Let's take a look at all of Emu's other powers, because I think they kind of spell out what I actually mean here. He makes contracts with the Holy Knights, granting them huge amounts of power in exchange for their lives and loyalty. He does the same to some unwilling participants with Domi Reversi, turning them into devils, and his whole thing really seems to be giving other people powers, but also borrowing other people's powers for themselves. And what do devil fruits do? They give other people powers, and they do so with a huge trade-off. They lose the ability to swim. Not that we've ever actually seen any character in the story actually drown because of this, which again, kind of wild. I guess we've just gotta hold out hope that Oda's saving that fate for someone real special in the story. A real villain, a big old jerk, maybe, I don't know, someone who, and I'm just spitballing here, tried to flood the world. So it would be kind of funny and ironic if they drowned in the ocean that they created. Who knows, but it could be literally anyone. So if Emu's power is devil fruits, I do think what Oda's trying to say here is that Emu's power is devil fruits themselves. Just very quickly, in case you're confused, like the way it's phrased in the original, actually, it's written that, Noryoku, so ability, ... Akuma no Mi. It's kind of a little bit weird because in Japanese you don't have singular and plural, right? So it could mean devil fruits as a whole system, and the fact that Oda's writing it in katakana and not kanji as he usually does, which is like two different alphabets. The kanji are usually used for a specific devil fruit, while like writing it in katakana, like the kind of, alphabet you use for concepts and names and foreign concepts, kind of suggests that this is not a devil fruit, as in like a singular fruit, but the concept of devil fruits as a whole. And we do like ourselves some good old holes. Now, I think it's extremely possible that Emu created devil fruits, that each of them are a part of his own power, and that he can take them back if he actually wants to, if he's close enough to them. One of the weirdest aspects of Emu's character design reveal, and there's a lot to choose from, for me has to be the fact that this man is dotted and spotted. And contrary to what everyone has been saying, I actually don't think Emu has smallpox. That was eradicated in 1980? No. I think that each single white dot on his skin might represent one of Emu's powers. Very anime. It could be a spot where he's removed a power to place into a devil fruit, or alternatively, it could be the opposite, and it's where he's taken a power from a fruit and placed it back into himself. It's a pretty common final shonen villain type of trope, right? All for one, Crollo, they're collecting all the powers out there, go catch them all. Because even though Oda is definitely known for some wild and crazy character designs, they're usually at least intentional, right? When he adds details like Loki's eye bandages or Shanks' face scar, or I don't know, Wapple's metal mouth, like they usually tell us something about the character and his history instead of, just being a little fun detail just for the sake of aesthetics. And that's kind of one of the weirdest things about Imu's entire reveal, because it seems to have a lot more extra details and features than Oda usually does with any other character in the story, including, by the way, his main character. So I do believe that Imu's complicated features probably all, to some extent, signify different elements and characteristics of his character. Great English, rather than just being there for decoration. And I definitely think that that's the case for his polka dots as well. So let me ask you, did you think it was bad and scary that Blackbeard has a whole 2 devil fruits? Well, dude, Imu is about to make him look like a chump when he busts out 1,000 devil fruit powers. From the little that we've seen so far, he already seems to be demonstrating aspects of multiple powers. He got all of the different abyss stuff, the teleportations, contracts, possession, Domi Reversi, the grimoire that summons blunderbusses, the bat wings. He seems to be able to use also Gunko's arrow fruit against Sabo and Cobra. Though I guess now it seems like it might have also just been his pointy little devil tail. Who knows? Or maybe they're the same thing. Then there's also the weird seeming similarity to Moria's shadow fruit with, Chopper exorcising the demons out of Domi Reversi giants, which is kind of odd because Moria is alive as far as we know. So clearly it's not the exact same power since it's seemingly working in the daylight, but Chopper getting rid of the demons looks a lot like what happens when Moria's shadows would have to leave their hosts as well. Though to be fair, this could just mean that Imu's powers are even scarier. Maybe it's not even that he split parts of his own power off, put them into a fruit, and to get the power back, he needs to eat it again. Maybe Imu still has all devil fruit powers to some extent, which to me just seems even more OP than my 5th grade drawings of, I don't know, like Charizard fusing with Naruto and Rayquaza into like the ultimate monster. Another possibility is that he maintains a watered-down version of the power, but if he did get his hands on the actual Shadow Fruit, it would be way more terrifying than if it ever was with Moria when he used it. Maybe that's why he sent Dofi after Moria during Marineford, because they wanted their hands on that fruit for some specific reason. And of course, there's still the possibility that this is a totally unrelated power. I just think it's kind of weird that they seem to function and work so incredibly similarly, but who knows? And the fruit's power that really strikes me as odd is Big Mom's? Because what do you mean all the trees and houses come alive and start singing at Imu's arrival? Like, is this not the exact same power we saw with Big Mom's Soul Fruit and the homies? Like, this is a soul pocus if I've ever seen one, and I've seen one. And also, I really can't wait for the anime to get there now because I kind of needed to hear Imu's walk-up song. I have a feeling it's gonna be a little bit less Disney and maybe a little bit more Metallica. This master of puppets going crazy. But, okay, wait. Yeah. Big Mom is probably dead on account of all the lava she's in, but we do know that when a devil fruit user dies, the fruit reincarnates to the nearest fruit that kind of can be its host, right? So I don't remember Imu dipping quickly over to Wano to snack up on a mango or something, but what if there was a way for the Soul Fruit to get all the way from the planet's melty center right to Pangaea Castle? I want to talk about the Eve Tree. Now, I'm pretty sure the Eve Tree rises right up above Marijua, but its roots, of course, reach all the way down through the Red Line, past Fishman Island on the bottom of the ocean at the deepest part, and into the center and core of the One Piece planet. Now, at this point, I'm already pretty sure that the Eve Tree has some connection at least to the Devil Fruits. We've been talking about this for literal years at this point. It's probably how the fruits were grown in the first place, which means that if Big Mom died in the middle of Mount Fuji, maybe the devil inside was just, sucked right back up through like the chimney that is the Eve Tree's trunk and back into Marijua and into the Red Line. As a result, reincarnating into another fruit, maybe in the flower room or wherever like the actual leaves of the Eve Tree are, and then Imu was able to regain that long lost power. Alright, but hold on for a moment. If I'm saying that devil fruits come from the Eve tree, and I'm also saying that devil fruits come from Emu, whoa, Manu, how does that even work? Isn't that two things instead of one? And I mean, don't worry your pretty little head about it. I've got you. But if we're gonna talk about how Emu is using the Eve tree to achieve his ultimate plan, we're gonna have to rewind way back in time to see how devil fruits might have been born and how Nerona Emu became the devil incarnate. As far as we can tell from the mural and the Harley text, the first world was ruled by a monster, the Earth God, commanding its Hellflame Serpent, or at least working alongside it. And based on these two sources, I believe that this Earth God was the ruler of the One Piece planet, the king of the world, maybe even Emu's predecessor. Now, what I'm always trying to kind of square away still is whether Emu just is the Earth God or the Sea Devil or something else that's kind of like a third-party thing, or possibly even both, right? And I still haven't quite figured it out because like little things keep shifting or big things keep shifting, like their face reveal, and I'm saving the full version of what I think happened for a much bigger video about the first world that we're working on right now anyways. But as you probably realize, there are a lot of different possibilities. For all we know, the Sea God and the Sea Devil could be the same, but they could also be different entities. Like perhaps what was originally the Earth God later became known as the Sea Devil, the Earth changing to the sea when they later flooded the entire planet, and the god turning to devil as they covered the world in fire and darkness. Again, the first world kind of hard to grasp, but what we're all pretty sure about is that this entity did battle with the Liberator, the progenitor of both Luffy and Joy Boy, the original sun god Nika, and when these gods clashed, the devil was ultimately defeated, thought to be dead for centuries. So just park your skepticism at the door for just a second and imagine this. What if in a climactic giant final attack, Nika split this creature apart, essentially punching him into 1,000 pieces? Each of these splinters could have divided the devil's power, spreading it across the entire planet, and each of these pieces could have contained the essence of what would become a devil fruit power, but still linked to the original, destined to curse anyone who would take the power. Actually, now that I'm saying this out loud, I'm reading the script, but I'm just thinking about this, covering the earth in darkness and flame and fire, isn't Emu's form just darkness and flame? Like maybe covering the earth in darkness and flame is just literally covering the earth in devil fruits, in parts of the devil. And from here on out, the devil's powers may then have during the second world incarnated into fruits, or they may have sunk even deeper into the earth, possibly into the abyss, or even forming the abyss, or something like that, right? It's kind of hard to say at this point since there's just so much that we still need to learn. With every reveal, there's just 50 new questions, classic Oda. But my personal favorite option right now is that those little devil bits might have become fruits because they were then absorbed into the roots of the newly planted Eve tree, which then sprouted atop the red line in the home of the Lunarians. This tree then grew fruits that would gift the eaters powerful abilities, the devil fruits that would then eventually be sent forth by the forest god, right? Each of them containing a small fraction of the sea devil's power. Now, at this point you might be rightfully asking, well, Manu, if all of the devil fruits come from this devil, then why would there possibly be a sun god Nika fruit, for example? And it might shock you to find out, but I did think about that. I even have an answer for that. Ooh, here's an idea. Maybe not all devil fruits are kind of made the same. Seeing that the defeated devil's powers survived in the world, even though he was greatly weakened, Nika might have made a plan. Just like Joy Boy would eventually spread the poneglyphs and hide the ancient weapons in preparation for the third world, Nika may himself have also created a failsafe for the second world at the end of the first. Nika and some other powerful beings like the Nidhogg may have actually allowed themselves and their own power to reincarnate into future fruits as well, being kind of like godlike beings themselves, allowing the people of the future a chance to fight against the Sea Devil if they ever returned. This might be exactly why Xebec seemed to want a couple of very specific fruits because they're the ones who can actually fight back against the devil because they're based on different entities and not part of his power system. One little piece of evidence that I really like that could speak for this possibility is that certain fruit awakenings have different colored hagoromos, right? Like the cloud, scarf that they have. Maybe ones who develop black hagoromos, like Lucci's fruits or the Gorosei, are offshoots of the devil's power, while the one with white hagoromos, like Yamato's, are more offsprings of Nika's power. After all, in the end, both Imo and Nika might have just been gods, might been like one was known as the devil at some point and Nika was the god, and then Nika became the devil and Imo called himself god. But in the end, they might be the same creature. And one other wild possibility here is that this could even be why Blackbeard is able to hold two devil fruits at once, why he's special, because maybe if you have two fruits that are descendant from different gods, they don't actually clash with each other. Oh yeah. Also, I guess while we're on the topic of Blackbeard, I do want to acknowledge another huge possibility as well here. Maybe the devil fruits aren't part of that original devil at all. Maybe instead they're all created by that devil, but instead of being split off from his own power, they're actually his own enemies who have become imprisoned. This is another ancient idea and like a theory I think I talked about like 4 or 5 years ago, that there might be actual people inside devil fruits, right? So could the souls of Davy clan members or even the Lunarians have been imprisoned within the fruits, each power, making them kind of special, manifesting now as the ultimate dream and desire of the spirit imprisoned within that fruit? This would very well explain why many devil fruits, or even all devil fruits, do seem to have a will of their own. It kind of feels like Luffy is almost possessed and overtaken by Nika to a certain degree when he goes into Gear 5, right? Characters seem to have personality characteristics that do match their fruit, so maybe that's actually because eating the devil fruit altered their personality, or you even kind of like Naruto style take another spirit or being into your body. That's why the jailer beasts of Impel Down awakened and the hosts were totally overtaken by their animal forms, and zones in general may have been the sea devils placing the spirits of these animals into his devil fruits, basically. Some people in the community have even speculated that Domi Reversi just can't be used on devil fruit users since we've never actually seen it successfully done so far. The fact that Imo did try to use the technique on Luffy and Loki would suggest that normally it should work, but if it doesn't, maybe it's because they already have a piece of Imo's power, which kind of acts as a ironic piece of safeguard against that ability. Or again, it could just be that their fruit powers come from a different source than Imu's, a different god slash devil, which then counters, Imu trying to invade their bodies. I really like that option the more I think about it. Technically, there could be 4 gods that all had different fruits based on their powers and, split into different groups. Really, there are a ton of possibilities still for the nature and true origin of devil fruits, but Imu's ability just being devil fruits definitely seems to link all of the devil fruits to him in some way, shape, or form, and I'm pretty sure that those devil fruits tie into the devil's ultimate plan as well. A plan which started hundreds of years after his defeat at the hands of Nika, when Nerona Imu was first born during the Second World. I actually think it's very likely that Saint Nerona Imu started out with possibly some decent and good intentions. He saw a great kingdom with unfathomable technology, weapons that could destroy islands. We know there was a whole giant age of slaveries during that period as well, and Imu and his 20 kings might have set out to put a stop to it, thinking that no single country or ruler should be able to wield that much dangerous power, and maybe even make the people around them suffer. The type of power that you can only wield if you join the Ohara Patreon, home to tons of bonus content. It takes a good while to put my videos together, as you can imagine, but you can hear my early thoughts on new chapters of One Piece before the videos come out, by becoming a Patreon, artwork, bonus content, etc, etc. If you just like what we do here and you want to be like a little part of it and part of the family, why not check it out? We have a free newsletter too, you can check that out too. Alright, back to the video. Imu would of course fall from grace at some point. Perhaps it was because they suffered a defeat at Joy Boy's hands, perhaps it was out of jealousy and his desire for Nefertari Lily. Whatever it was, Nerona Imu might have found themselves at a new low point, and more than anything, they needed power. And the devil from the first world, in a weakened state, found someone willing to make the ultimate deal. In exchange for power, Imu became a host to the devil, gaining enough power to defeat Joybo and the Great Kingdom, but at the cost of his ideals, his personality, and just anything that he actually was. Instead of creating a new government based on equality, Imu would become the secret king of the world, ruling in tyranny. And due to Nerona Imu's desperation and the depths of his envy and hatred, the devil was able to fully take over Nerona's body and, like, their mind, right? In fact, they might be the only devil fruit we've actually seen which has truly awakened. You know, think about all the eye stuff and like how the more a fruit gets awakened, they take over their user. Imu might just be the ultimate form of that. And one of the other super weird features of Imu's design is that he too has like the flame thing behind him, but it's not really a Hagoromo, it's more like one of those Buddhist flame wheels or halos, and he has a bunch of Imu eyes on it. And those eyes, they're open. They're like very much awake. Now this goes into a little bit of different territory here, but Luffy might only be at the first stage of an actual awakening where his will lines up with the will of his fruit. But on the other hand, if a fruit both lines up with the will but also completely takes over, maybe those eyes might open up as well. It might be like a combination of that true awakening and the false awakening of the jailer beast, like a monstrous form that's been taken over by the real devil within, but that still retains its will and intelligence. All I'm saying is we might see, you know, a Nika fully taking over Luffy's body, and then Luffy at some point having to kind of like strike a deal with him, kind of like how, you know, originally Naruto got taken over by Kurama, but then they kind of figured out how to like buddy up and fight together. And I gotta say, I actually kind of like that. If we see like a full takeover of a Nika from the first world, a god taking over Luffy's body, Luffy fighting back, and then both of them kind of teaming up, that could be pretty cool. And honestly, that entire concept could even be part of Imu's plan, because maybe if there are other devils within the fruits and they're not just pieces of himself, he wants the other devils to wake up too. Though in the end, what I really think his ultimate plan is probably to realistically just take all of that power for himself. Imu wants all the power for himself, and either that means literally absorbing every devil fruit power back into his own body, or back into the Eve tree where he can then monopolize their power and distribute them only as he sees fit. Ever since the devil was defeated by Nika, he might have been trying to return to his full power that he had during the first world. We can even see that he's clearly in a weakened state right now, bleeding from the mouth and like coughing up blood as he like arrives on Elbaf, leaving Pangaea Castle for probably the first time in like centuries. He might actually be in some way or form linked to the Eve tree and needs its power or something that's up in Morijua in order to survive. And again, I think it really makes sense from a mythological perspective too, because he's the devil, possibly connected to the remains of the Hellflame Serpent, if that creature is actually inside the Red Line, as we've been talking about in the past. With the Eve tree, with the devil fruits, right? Bible Piece has never been more confirmed. Snake, tree, forbidden fruit. But if the devil's power has been spread all throughout the world in different devil fruits, then how is Imu ever managing to get all of them back? Like, look at all the people who have eaten devil fruits, right? Now, he could send out the Marines to devil fruit hunt, and the world government does seem to consolidate a lot of the rare and powerful devil fruits with its most trusted personnel, keeping them nice and close if Imu ever decides to take them back as he enters the final phase of the plan, right? Also, like, a lot of the most broken fruits in the story came from God Valley and stuff like that, or, you know, like Boa Hancock getting her fruit while she was a slave up in the Holy Land for funsies. So a lot of the really strongest fruits kind of came back from the government after they were either giving out at prices but then fell in the wrong hands, like Kaido's fruit or Akuma's fruit, or were just fed to slaves as entertainment. But as you can imagine, going around the entire planet and hunting them down one at a time seems like a lot of work and kind of impossible to do, especially if you're in a weakened state like Imu is. So that's basically what Blackbeard's doing right now. Blackbeard might even be collecting so many fruits to begin with because he, through Zebek or his mom, might know that Imu's ultimate plan will be to take them all back, so he wants as many as he can on his side as possible for the coming cataclysm, either to, you know, make himself as strong as possible or to just deny Imu home advantage, basically. But getting them one by one like that, like he's doing, seems way slower than just taking all the fruits back in one fell swoop. Now, if you're a very loyal viewer of the channel and you watch most videos, first off, thank you. I really appreciate that. Let me know in the comments if that's the case. But then you might remember that we already talked about this plan a little bit, at least, in this video about the true purpose of Marijo a while back, which I think is aging pretty well at this point. But how would Imu actually go about getting all these fruits back? Well, by doing what they've already been saying that they would try and do, flooding the world. Devil fruit users, as you might have, realized reading the story, can't really survive in the water. Neither can submerged trees or fruits, and if you raise the sea levels enough until there's just no more land around, with the exception being the red line, and every single devil fruit user drowns, along with all of the world's fruit supply being eradicated as well, sinking under the ocean, then every single devil fruit on the planet goes back to default, goes back to the one big surviving tree on the planet, the one on the highest ground, the Eve tree. And from there, right at the center of his power, Imu could either have a big buffet moment, chomping them all down and finally being restored to his full power, or he could rest assured knowing they were now safe and sound on the Eve tree, which I'm kind of becoming more and more sure is linked to the devil in some way, shape, or form, like through some connection. I kind of have a feeling that it's the Eve tree that Imu has to be near to stay in good health and is now far away from and thus is coughing of blood. The side effects of leaving the castle are probably because he needs to be with the Eve tree in his flower garden, which I think makes sense, especially if it's, growing the devil fruits and his power is devil fruit. Though I do want to point out that, of course, it's not confirmed yet that the devil fruits grow on the Eve tree, but like, come on. Eve, the original person who created all humanity for forbidden fruit. It's kind of gotta be, right? There's gotta be something there. But that also leads me to a possibility for Imu's plan that we also have to acknowledge, because we already know there are aliens in the One Piece universe. As you know, as a big fan of Enel's cover story that you hopefully are as well, there are space pirates. The winged races of the One Piece world came down from the moon and outer space in search of resources on the blue planet, and if the Eve tree's roots are literally reaching down into the core of the planet, where the Forbidden Sun maybe is or was, and in return, it's now generating some super powerful devil fruits, I think I at least have to throw out the possibility that this devil is actually a being from outer space, from somewhere else, and that the Eve tree is meant to fully reabsorb the power of the One Piece planet, giving that power to this devil before they move on through the cosmos looking for the next victim. Yes, you heard me correctly here, and I know this might have triggered a little bit some of you guys. I know you might be a bit mad about that, but if it turns out to be true, we're gonna have to mentally prepare ourselves for it. It's gonna be maybe the exact same big boss plan as Kaguya Otsutsuki from Naruto and her God tree that was meant to like reabsorb the world's chakra was. Yeah, I think that's at least a real possibility. Giant trees, outer space stuff, like ancient beings, and like a power system that seems unnatural to the planet. Just wanted to throw it out there. Does this feel even worse because Naruto fans have been saying for years that Imu came out of nowhere too late in the series, kind of like Kaguya? Yes, even though it's kind of a wild argument to bring since Imu was like 8 years ago at this point and not like 20 chapters before the end of the story like Kaguya and Naruto, but it would be truly wild if two of the big three shonen turned out to have a kind of similar ending at the end. That would be absolutely crazy. And I mean, like, since Imu's all covered with eyes and is made of inky blackness, he's also got a little bit of Bleach's Yuhabaha in there as well. I don't know, maybe Imu's just all of shonen's big bosses smashed together into one guy. Again, I'm not saying I'm a big fan of this, I just wanted to put it out there because, like, the comparison seems to be on the hand. I don't remember what the phrase was, but you get what I mean, right? So the giant tree that sucks out a planet's life force has been such a massive trope for a long time. It was in the Dragon Ball Z Tree of Might movie. There was a Doom tree in Sailor Moon R, and Oda's obviously inspired by tree-based mythology, like the tree, for example, with the forbidden fruit in the Bible. In the book of Genesis, or even Yggdrasil, the world tree of Norse mythology that is just the tree on Elbaf, the Adam tree. In his cover stories, he's been foreshadowing that there are aliens harvesting planets' resources out there, and that these planets can run out of resources at some point and they move on. That's been an angle for years, so if it ended up being the case for the One Piece planet and it's in the process of being harvested and, you know, someone stopped it like Nika or Joy Boy, but like now the plan is continuing, I think all I'm saying is we just gonna have to let Oda cook here on this one and trust that he's been planning it for a long time and is not just ripping off Kishimoto, because I don't think that's his style, and I think if anything that would be kind of a little bit of a coincidence. But maybe I could be worrying about nothing here and Imu just wants all those delicious, delectable devil fruits all for himself to gobble up in peace. And he doesn't want to take the planet's energy, he just wants to reshape it into his own glorious devilish image of paradise. And speaking of this devilish image here, if you missed it, I talked about all the crazy elements and details of Imu's character design in this video. You probably missed a bunch too, there's like a lot to talk about, so check it out. It's a very long breakdown, but absolutely we're diving deep into this reveal, and I will see you on Thursday for more relevant content on what's been going on. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Thanks to all the Patreons, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one.